Hello again guys, relatively quick video for you today. Today we wrap up this new LED lighting setup that I've been working on. First, I started things off with the YN300-III light. Then I moved to the YN300-III with adjustable 3200 to 5500 Kelvin lighting, meaning I had two sets of LEDs in there. 150 of them at 3200 Kelvin and 150 of them at 5500 Kelvin. Well, today we have the third part in the series, the YN300-III, that is 5500K only. And I'm not going to bore you with the whole unboxing process. Should be basically identical. And I went through the process just now. Yes, it's identical. So really, as you might expect, this looks just identical to the existing YN300-III that I've got. Has basically the exact same layout, except if you look very closely at the buttons, you do not have a 3200/5500 Kelvin button anymore. The fine and coarse button is now just coarse, and fine is right here. And you still have battery and channel buttons. You still have the same barn doors, they still open the exact same way. Still comes with the diffuser panel that I'm actually using, which still slides in just like this. Although I will say, if you look at my YN300-III that I'm using currently, I actually have a softbox diffuser over the top of it, so that's diffusing a lot of the light. And I took just a quick second to check the levels. I'm at 100 on the YN300-Air, and I'm at 50 diffused on the YN300-III right now. And that's with both of them at 5500 Kelvin and the camera taking care of all the rest. So I'm actually going to take just a second, change things up just a little bit here, and transition away from using the YN300-Air. So just as a point of reference, I'm currently using the YN300-III 3200 to 5500 Kelvin set at 50 on 5500 Kelvin only. As you can see, it's very, very bright. It's actually way too bright for this whole setup because I took the diffuser off of it as well. I wanted to make it about as even as I possibly could. And this is 25 on the YN300-III 5500 Kelvin only light. Old mixed light, new non-mixed light. Both lights together. Wow, that's really bright. And there we go. We've got both of the lights set up, I think, about where I would like them to be. The one over here might be just a little bit too close, but the old light, the 3200 to 5500 Kelvin, is at 50%, 5500K only. The new one is at 25%, 5500K only. And just to sort of throw it out there, they can both get very, very bright, so I'm really only using a minimal amount of what these are capable of. So, as an example, 5500 Kelvin on the new light can go up like this. And when you pair that up with the old light, we're very rapidly approaching the surface of the sun. Although looking kind of closely at it, it doesn't look terrible. It's blown out, my face is not going to be visible, I look really, really pale and white, but it could definitely be worse. I'm thinking if I change settings in the camera, it might actually not be terrible. It's just a little overdone. Yeah, I just turned my ISO down one setting and it looks relatively back to normal, right? Skin color and everything. It definitely does still look a little bit blown out, and the lights are a lot more harsh than I would really like. The reason I was going with 50 and 25 before is because that's what's sort of comfortable to my eyes, but this is really not that bad. So anyway, I hope this little series on lighting has been somewhat interesting to you, at least somewhat useful to some of you. If you're in the market for some halfway decent LED lighting, I would not use this video series as a 100% this is what you should buy because of these videos, because the camera I'm using makes about 90% of the difference here. If you're using your cell phone, if you're using a not so great DSLR, if you're using a kit lens on something, these may not be the best. In fact, just for the sake of comparison, I just went ahead and changed my lens out. This is the lens I normally film with, the Panasonic 20mm f1.7 on the Panasonic G7. I've switched back to the kit lens, so this should give you sort of an adequate back and forth. I'm zoomed in a little bit, but it's at f4, 1/100th of a second shutter speed, and ISO 800, where I was at ISO 200 when I was using this lens, and I was at f1.7 with this lens. So definitely a massive difference made by the lens, but it still doesn't really look that bad. It looks like you can see a whole lot more of the background, but that's to do with the lens. There we go. Back to a place of relative comfort, back on the lens that I love. So as I was saying, hopefully this video was at least somewhat helpful to you. For a somewhat reasonable price, these little Yongnuo lights are really not bad at all. Just expect that you're gonna pay from $40 to $70 per light. $40 for the little air lights that are very, very limited. $66 or so for the YN300-III, depending on which one you get, depending on what you get with it. $20 a piece for the AC adapters, and then $10 to $20, maybe even as much as $40 or $50, depending on what you get, for the battery and chargers, if you want to have these completely mobile. In my case, I'm using these with AC adapters. This one's going to be used with batteries and probably just be used behind me as sort of a hair accent light, but I'm very pleased with this lighting setup and the fact that I have one remote that can control the whole thing. Just by doing that, I can turn it off and on. I could turn them up and down, but because they are two different LED strengths, I would actually be turning one up at twice the speed of the other. So that's not exactly fair. But I will have links down in the description to where you can pick up all of these things, of course. Remember to hit the like button below this video if you like this video, if you like this series. Subscribe to receive more of my videos whenever they become available, and we will see you again next time. Plugged in, and as you can see, it's doing 5 volts at 2.4 amps on this port. I do also have the second phone plugged in. It is charging that phone as well, but next port, right back to 2.4 amps. 2.4 amps.